You know, when it comes to buying a car, nobody wants to lose money. That's a pretty fair universal statement, I would have to think. That's why all too often I think people settle for boring cars in the name of reliability. Because for some reason y'all think you're gonna save a bunch of money on a quote unquote reliable vehicle. Blah, 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 sport-oriented cars are expensive to maintain, blah, 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 depreciation, blah, blah. You'd be obligated to modify it, boo-hoo. Listen, not all fun cars have to be expensive to maintain, or get gas mileage. In fact, there's a ton of options out there that people just don't know about, or that people have the complete wrong idea about because of these bad rumors that could spread around stuff. Anyway, there are still cars out there that are loads of fun to drive that aren't gonna stab you in the back after 5 long years of devoting your life and your time and your money into making it perfect. Cars that are still performance oriented that you can daily drive without the risk of spontaneous catastrophic engine failure. Let's talk about some fun, reliable cars that you can buy right now for less than a brand new Camry. But before we get into this incredibly exciting list of fun cars, if you're new here, subscribe. You give the video a thumbs up, it helps us get in front of other car enthusiasts just like yourself, and we would super appreciate the love. And if you ever need anything, wheels, tires, or suspension, come see the experts at fitmentindustries.com. And if you like hood rat car content, big smoky burnouts, or just want to see some behind the scenes action here at Fitment Industries, go ahead and give me a follow on Instagram at SeanB.fi. Let's get started. Listen, man, I get it. You bought a Toyota Camry because it promised that new car smell, Toyota reliability, Apple CarPlay, and all for a measly $239 a month car payment. On paper, it makes total sense. It's a real adult move. But let's be real for a second. Adulting sucks and Camrys, they also suck. We're gonna go over some cars that cost the same or the less amount of money than a big, boring Camry that won't put you to sleep and won't make you go broke with endless repairs. And the first one that really comes to mind is none other than any generation, really, of a Mazda Miata. Look, I don't like Miatas as much as the next guy, no offense. They're kind of slow, and again, no offense. And ever since I rented a convertible Audi S5 when I went to visit California, I learned that convertibles, they really, really suck. I mean, you know, it's gotta be hot outside for you to put the top down, but then you put the top down and you get a bunch of sunburn, and then the sun reflects off all the interior pieces and it will blind you. It's honestly kind of terrible. Anyway, Miatas are slow. They're slow, all right? I'm sorry. But what they do offer is an affordable entry into a car that's lightweight with a really good chassis setup that still makes for a really decent amount of fun to drive. And the benefit of that low horsepower is that they take back-to-back-to-back abuse. And honestly, I think they were built slow for that reason. But what if you do want to go fast? What if you want a big honking V8 that can do sick burnouts, but it's still going to be reliable? Well, look no further than pretty much any semi-modern domestic Grand Touring car. And I'm looping them all into one today because, well, there's just too goddamn many and I didn't want this list to be a list of domestic pony cars. Anyway, I'm talking about your Mustangs, Camaros, GTOs, G8s, CTS-Vs, Challengers, Chargers. I'm sure I'm missing a couple, but you get the freaking point. The classic concoction of putting a truck-based engine into a regular-sized car, and voila, you have yourself a burnout machine. Sure, it's a simple formula, but that simple formula literally directly translates to one of the main components of this list, which is reliability. Most engines that end up in these cars have been built to stand the test of time in the harshest environments under extreme abuse. And that's why you're also going to find that a lot of these sport models from domestic manufacturers also take to boost very, very well with an untouched rotating assembly. It's a pretty wild segment of cars if you stop and actually think about it. But what if a big honking V8 isn't quite your style, but you still can't quite get yourself past your own insecurities to buy a Miata? A BRZ FRS 86 Toyota Scion Subaru thing is a great choice for anyone looking for a fun experience with little to no side effects. Now I get it, they're also slow just like the Miata, but whatever. They're still naturally aspirated to make mediocre power for that same sake of reliability. I mean, honestly, show me one person who has a turbocharged Subaru from the factory that hasn't had catastrophic engine failure. I'm waiting. That's exactly what I thought. These cars are 250,000% based on being able to beat the absolute out of these cars on the racetrack, or maybe more appropriately, the autocross course, and still be able to drive that car home. You can't say that about a WRX now, can you? And the 86 platform is just full of all of that JDM charm as well. It comes in a manual transmission, and they're not as tiny as they look on the outside. But probably the most fun part about this whole platform is the ability to efficiently modify these cars. Aftermarket support for the 86 platform rivals that of Ford's Mustang, meaning said parts are rather cheap to obtain, easy to find, and there's DIY solutions for everything, everywhere, which makes these cars really fun to own. It's also pretty hard to forget that one time when Ford was like, hey, let's make a hot hatch that can shit out Volkswagen's GTI, and then let's also make it cheaper. The Ford Focus ST is such a good all-around everything for car enthusiasts. It's crazy. While the interior and build quality might not be up to par with its Volkswagen counterpart, it's hard to argue against the practicality of any 5-door hatchback, especially when you go and toss in a 250 horsepower turbocharged engine. Some Recaro seats, some nice handling suspension components, and it's only available with a manual transmission. What is not to love about that? Especially when you consider how Ford purposely made these cars really easy to modify. They even make their own performance parts for these cars. And here's where the reliability comes from. It comes from its 2-liter EcoBoost engine that went through a ton of development and then was used in damn near everything at the time. And so again, parts are mass produced, and so cost comes down with that. I've never actually owned one of these cars, but I did get to borrow one for a weekend, and it was an absolute blast of a time. Especially with the ST3 package, leather Recaros, they were actually pretty comfortable, and you get that nice, the big sync infotainment stuff. It actually makes the interior feel a lot nicer than it actually is. And then going a completely different direction with this one, the R129 generation Mercedes-Benz SL Class 500 is a fantastic automobile. No, it's not going to handle particularly great, but it is confident and extremely comfortable. No, it doesn't have a whole bunch of crazy AMG horsepower, but its 300 horsepower 5-liter V8 is plenty to have fun with. And no, it's not packed with the latest and greatest technology. But what this old girl does have to offer is a real sports car experience surrounded by the perception of class and fancy taste. But this isn't just any old Mercedes. This generation of the SL class is known as one of the last over-engineered Mercedes-Benzes, because this was an era of Mercedes-Benz known as the cost is no object era of development for Mercedes-Benz. Now, this does inevitably mean that the car is incredibly complex, hence the 11 and 12 hydraulic cylinders to open and close the convertible top, but they're also incredibly well engineered to last nearly forever. This goes especially for that V8 SL 500. They put this 5-liter engine in pretty much everything, or a very close rendition of it in literally everything. The S-Class, CL, EG, CLK, SLML, almost literally every single model from Mercedes-Benz had one of these engines or an engine like it. And they all have hundreds of examples of cars that went well in excess of 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 miles. Not only did they make a ton of these engines, they made a ton of these SLs as well. And what that means for the consumer is that the platform is pretty popular in its own right. So information is easy to find. There's a large aftermarket support to keep prices down, and Mercedes actually still produces parts for these. If you're looking for something a little more on the classic side of a reliable daily driver, this one's gonna probably be for you. And last, but certainly not least, is a car that takes a page out of the build book of everything else on this list to create one of the most fun, most efficient, and reliable, mostly practical, mostly comfortable driving experiences out there right now. This is a car that can fit enough luggage for 2 adults under its hatchback and gets 28 miles per gallon on the highway. It's available with a manual transmission, has decades of winning racing history in its DNA, and can be as tame or as menacing as you want, depending on how hard you push that go pedal. It has a crazy aftermarket support that can take you from a full-on show car to a comfortable daily driver, all the way up to a 2,000 horsepower monster. I'm of course talking about the Chevrolet Corvette. I mean, come on. It's basically a longer, wider Miata with basically a modified truck engine that has a ton of space for storage instead of a back seat. That hatch-style rear glass is freaking genius for packing a ton of stuff into a relatively small sports car. And with basically a truck engine, these things can last damn near forever. And they do, all the time. Even if you're giving it the bully beatdown every single day. And again, the Corvette engine isn't only in the Corvette. They more often than not make their way into other vehicles down the line, again, keeping costs down. And if you don't need to haul more than 2 people, it's kind of the perfect vehicle. And these things can look the absolute biz-nass with the wheel, tire, suspension makeover. They're capable, they're efficient if you're nice to it, they're reliable, and C6s and older are able to be had for way less than a new Camry. And if you do your research and buy smart, you won't have to suffer that depreciation bug either. It's not something that can be said for brand new Camry. So, what are you picking for your next fun car? Are you going straight for that power application, or are you looking for something a little more small, a little more nimble? Let me know in the comments. And if you guys want to see more videos just like this one, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and leave your other ideas down below. I try to read every single comment. Don't forget to subscribe and click that bell so you don't miss any of the crazy builds coming up. If you know what I'm saying. And of course, you know where to go for all things wheels, tires, and suspension. Fitmentindustries.com. I'll leave some links in the description below with some deals attached to them, the sales, you know. I'm Sean, SeanB.fi on Instagram. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.